Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to the 34th Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. I'm Milan Starcic with my co-host Adam Charles Preston.
Hello.
That's right. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Adam?
Well, I'm about 5'11", just over 200 pounds. But yeah, I'm just full of it, man. I'm full of recovery. I'm about 5.5 years clean and sober, and I've got a beautiful wife and 4-year-old twins, and I work at Options Treatment Center as a drug and alcohol addictions counselor, and I love life.
I love you, and I'm so grateful you wanted to be here today. Options Treatment Center saved my life, and and that was where I met you, and I was so happy I did. You were a great source of friendship and guidance inside my early recovery, and I wanted to ask you though. What was the pivotal moment that the program sparked a recovery fire in your heart?
Um, there was like I had gone, let's put it this way, I had gone to some AA meetings prior going to treatment, but I couldn't. I'm one of those guys who couldn't stay sober between the meetings, right? So I eventually, my family had this wonderful idea to catch me off guard and have an intervention, and next thing I know, I'm in a treatment center in Vancouver. But I think the moment, sorry about that, the
I
moment
thought
that
you fell down, not the that was so fun. Okay, good.
the moment it sort of lit a fire in me, I guess, was when I got to Vancouver, to a treatment center called TWC. I got there about 11 o'clock at night, and I was a mess. I was completely loaded. And, but first thing the next day, 6 o'clock, I was up, and I was going through withdrawal, from, various substances. And, I was like, I need this. I want this. Like, I'm all the way here from Kelowna, and, I went out to the smoke pit, and there was a bunch of people. This was a place where there's about 60 guys. There's a compound with 4 different houses and different
Like the whole
administrators.
treatment center held 60 guys,
Yeah,
and it was all males.
he was all men's treatment center. And so I went out to the smoke pit, and of course I don't even smoke, but that's where everyone's hanging out. That's pretty common with addiction. um, And everyone's like, oh, hey, how you doing? I'm so and so, and what's your name? I'm like, oh, I'm Adam. And they're like, oh, cool. So, have you ever been to treatment? And I'm like, no, I'm my first, time. And they're like, oh, cool, yeah, you'll like it. I've been here 7 times. And I'm like, what? And then the next guy introduces himself, and he's like, yeah, man, like, you came to the right place. I've been here 4 times. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what? Like, what? How many times do you have to go to treatment to get it, right? And then there was just guy after guy just kept telling me, like, you know, your first time. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, right on. Yeah, I know. I went to this treatment center, that treatment center. I've been here 3 times. And I'm like thinking, like, does this shit work? Like, what's,
Yeah,
what is
yeah.
going on, right? Um, anyway, this one guy came up to me, and he was a kind of a burly fella like myself with a beard and tattoos. And He said, "Hey, my name's Kelly." And I said, "Hey, my name's Adam." And he didn't ask me questions about, how many times I've been in treatment or, he seemed to know that I was new already. And, he didn't say anything about his own experience. He just said, "Stick with the winners." Shook my hand and he walked away. And I thought, well, okay, but everyone here seems to have been in treatment like 5 times at least. So, but anyway,
You never
I
talked
went,
to them again?
no, no. Well, so what happened was there was myself and some other people that were brand new, and we were put into this group. I think there was about 20 of us, and we started our morning group therapy. And this guy walks into the room, and he was actually he was one of the counselors. And I was like, oh shit, I thought that guy was just another inmate like me in the asylum, right? But he said how he addressed the room, and then he said, "How many times you guys think I've been in treatment?" And everyone was throwing out numbers like, 10, 12, 20, 4, 6, 3, 8, like, and then he looked at everyone and he said, "Nope, I've only been once." And then right then and there, I thought, I want I want what that guy has, you know? He's only
Hmm.
been in treatment once. And now he's here as a counselor. And I just something hit me. It was like a spiritual, shotgun blast to my heart. It was like, this is what I want to do. And
Mm.
and that's just when I knew it. It was day one of rehab. And, from there I was there
How long
for
did you stay in treatment there?
I was there for almost a month, and then I like just shy of a month, and then I went straight from there to options in Salmon Arm. We used to have a location in Salmon Arm, and so I went there, and then yeah, and those treatment centers were back to back. There was not even a day off in between, and yeah, and then after that, I started working at options in Kelowna, and been there ever since. So yeah. I I loved recovery and treatment so much I never left really.
Well, I gotta say, I was actually sad the day I left, and I really loved it there. I feel that it's a place of miracles and life saving. I feel for you. I would love to eventually get into some counseling myself in that respect. And I'm feeling like at least with this podcast, it's kind of keeping me right in the middle of talking recovery with people who have recovery fever.
Yeah.
And so today's topic is fun in recovery. Can you tell me what this means to you and why you chose to discuss this today?
Well, am I allowed to swear on here?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, this is something that one of my spiritual gangster leaders has said. Her name is Shirley. You know Shirley.
Ooh,
She
I know
says
Shirley.
she's always said, I didn't get clean and sober to be fucking miserable.
No,
And
exactly.
and that stuck with me. And you know I'm having the best time, like my life, everything that's good that's happened to me, like really good, has happened while I've been sober. And everything that's super negative that's happening in my life is when I was in active addiction. So um fun and recovery, I mean, why not? If we're going to get
Yeah,
clean and sober, like let's make it worthwhile. And for me, working at a treatment center and getting to counsel people, I think that it's one thing to see people clean and sober, but when I see sort of a light go off or turn on in their eyes, and you can see they're having fun and they're laughing, and they're doing activities with other people in recovery, and they're getting involved, and it just there's joy. There's joy in the way they talk, and you can just tell there's laughter that's coming straight from their heart. And for me, like, that's what it's about. I really get off on seeing people thrive after being in treatment and just living life to the fullest, you know. Um, and I just try and pass on what I learned and my attitude towards it is let's have fun. And I think it works for some people. So a lot of the people that have left options, they seem to be having a good time in life. And someone like you, we get to see each other regularly, and you're always smiling, man. Looks like you're
Yeah.
having fun.
I think looks are not deceiving. I would say that, I've been able to find a serenity that like glimmers to joy quite often, from the program. And my last stretch in addiction was far from that.
Yeah.
Like uh, I think for me, it's like, man, the first time I met you, it was like, I think you were like putting a guitar or something. You were selling it at Jazzmaster. And so
Yeah.
we went out to your car, we looked at the guitar, and then we walked to the store. And the whole time it was just like me kind of quizzing you about how you navigate life as a musician. So, another side note, everybody, cat out of the bag. Adam's an amazing musician. And Adam, he's still active in how many bands? Or you were a couple bands at least before.
Yeah. I'm playing in four bands that actually play live, and then I'm in a couple kind of just more like recording projects. But yeah, and I I love it. I play, on the weekends, and yeah, it's a fun outlet.
So, you know, obviously everybody thinks a party as soon as they think of music, you know. So describe how you shifted from being, addict Adam in the midst of music to recovery Adam and able to navigate your way with the fellow musicians and for your gigs. How does that work inside your own emotional sobriety? You know?
Well, I mean, for me, I was in treatment, and at first I thought like, because first of all, the type of music I play for the most part is, it's punk rock, it's garage rock, it's glam rock, it's rock and roll, to put it,
That's rock.
simply. And it's not the kind of music that you really play in a quaint coffee shop. So, you know, I played in bars my whole life. It was playing in nightclubs and bars and outdoor festivals and beer gardens and touring around Western Canada and um, I was like, fuck, I'm done. My music career's over. Like, I can't be around drinking. I can't be around drugs. I'm never going to play a live show again. And, when I was at Options in Salmon Arm, one of the counselors said to me, like, because I was pretty devastated just thinking about how, I thought life was just going to suck. And, she told me, she said, no, like, that's one of your biggest passions. And if you do it right and you have a plan, one day you'll be able to do it. And, when I got out of rehab, all of a sudden the whole COVID pandemic hit. So there was no bars or anything open anyway for like 2 years. So, from a recovery standpoint, that was good because I had 2 years where I got to work on myself. And, once things opened up again, all the musicians I play with, thankfully they all respect me and no one pushes anything on me. And I'm at the venue, I'm playing guitar, I'm singing, and holy shit, turns out I'm way better,
Yeah.
than when I was wasted up on stage. Of course I thought I was really good,
Fantasy
but
versus reality.
yeah, and like, I remember like being on stage and it's like three songs in and I'm just like gasping for air and my voice is already shot and
Throwing
because
pepperoni at the crowd.
yep. And because it's like I've already done 10 shots prior to getting up on stage and I'm just out of breath and it's horrible. But now, I mean, I go up there and I feel strong, I can last longer and I'm just more in tune with my fellow musicians on stage and we take chances, we jam, we go here, we go there and the crowd, I feed off their energy, but I'm not thinking about the after party and I'm not thinking about you know um, doing shots between songs and for me it's this beautiful creative outlet and I've discovered that and the writing side of things too, like not just performing but writing and being creative. It's you know, at first when I was doing drugs and drinking, it was like, oh, this is, opening my mind. It's expanding things. And I
Hmm.
was writing crazy music and this and that. But, that didn't last very long. Like
No,
eventually it just became this crutch and it was like, oh, I got to write a song. So I better get loaded. And then it's like, no, I didn't even write anything. I just watched the same sports highlights 3 hours in a row, like drinking a bottle of tequila by myself. Like that's not, you know,
that's not songwriting.
no, no. It's literally like the complete opposite of pretty much anything to do with anything creative. And now, like it's like the natural, those things that I used to try, expand my mind, blah blah blah. Now that just comes naturally, Like
Mhm.
I'll be outside and I'll be looking at a sunset, or as corny as this sounds, like looking at a sunset, or just seeing the trees blow in the wind, and it's like all of a sudden, boom, song idea. Um, my kids will do something really hilarious, boom, song idea, like it just kind of comes, there are just these things on the wind that come and go. And sometimes, I happen to grab one of them and the song comes out. So
I
that's
find the
my
song.
experience.
Mhm. Whoa, you just dropped off your table. Dude, wait till you watch this because when you see it, it looks like you fall right down into a pit. Um, my experience with my creativity is that if I don't try to direct it, it's there. Like when you're talking about your kids or the sunset or whatever, just being open to whatever, story the universe wants you to tell, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's like it's a kind of unexplainable, when some kind of idea comes in. Like I've I'm done when people say, "Oh, what's your process?" It's like I don't know. It's different every time. Like there's not really a process. It's just
Yeah.
this yeah, this beautiful thing that is so much more beautiful. And and I'm more grateful for the talents I have, and I'm more appreciative to what comes out of it.
Whoa,
My
man, you're gonna get
man, I got
sore falling down in this pit so much.
I've got my phone is just it keeps slipping on this desk here. Maybe if I put this in front of it.
Sometimes I'll put them on a napkin so it doesn't slip on it's a hard
Yeah.
surface. But
All right.
either way, though, we're doing good. We're doing good. So, did you come with any questions with you? You could ask me a question, and oh, look at this, the magic. Oh, there we go. With yeah. Oh, don't blow the secret. Okay, you can ask me one, and then I'll answer it. You'll answer it, and then we'll just alternate for a while.
So this is a pretty weird question, but for
Okay.
me, this is something that was huge in early recovery.
Okay.
How or like what is your like how are your sleeps? How do you sleep at night now compared to inactive addiction? Like what goes through your head and when you wake up, how do you feel? And just overall in general, what does sleep look to you today? Look like
Oh,
to you today?
so flashback 5 years ago, my opinion was sleep was for pussies,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I really almost would say avoided it at all costs, even driving me to my death, right?
Yeah.
Like I literally did not understand what good sleep was because if I was drinking, it meant I was a snoring factory that never had a good sleep.
Yeah.
And if I was on drugs, I just was pretending to sleep so my wife wouldn't be mad at me.
Yeah.
And, but okay, so when I first got into options, um, in building one, virtually didn't sleep because of the squeaky bed.
Yeah.
In building two, slept mildly because the bed was just a little bit less squeaky. But I still wasn't sleeping that good in options. But I've come to realize that that was probably a factor of like having to reset my entire cycle,
Oh,
A-
for sure.
and that I was drinking coffee, a lot
Yeah.
of coffee, and I really learned in the last actually just like 6 months that even if I drink it in the morning, 1 or 2 cups of coffee, it affects how I sleep, even that night. And so for myself, I've been really working on my sleep the last 15 months. Like, I have the water soluble magnesium, and I would say that I've gone from a 3 or 4 hour night sleeper, you know, to a solid 7, maybe 7.5 hours sleep, you know, which is which is unbelievable to me. Like I now see sleep as one of my greatest parts in my serenity equation. Like
Yeah.
if I don't have enough sleep, jerkface Milan is right there, ready to be like everything's a fucking hassle, you know? And if I do get enough sleep, it's like the opportunity to evolve.
Yeah.
And what about
Well, and
you?
well, for me, the biggest thing was, you know, I never really slept. It was just I would drink until I passed out, right?
Mm.
And I would sleep for a few hours maybe, or sorry, pass out for a few hours, and then I'd wake up and I would have to go take a couple shots just to get back to sleep, right? I mean, it was no there was no it was just this state of despair. And waking up, of course, I'm sick because I'm going through withdrawal and I got the shakes. It's horrible. But once, once I started sleeping well at night, it was like all of a sudden I was like, holy shit, like there's something to this recovery thing. Like because
Yeah.
and the main thing was like, my mind was always there was all these things spinning around because I was telling so many lies and manipulating people and manipulating myself and just being so unhealthy and all the shit. And it was spinning around in my head. It was like a hamster wheel that was constantly going around. And the only way to shut it off would be to drink till I passed out. And then, of course, when I woke up, that thing's spinning even more. But all of a sudden, about I don't know, month and a half into recovery, it's like all of a sudden I lay my head down on my pillow and holy shit, my head's just like empty, like in the best way possible. Like there's no hamster wheel spinning. It's like all my mind, the only thing there is like, hey, it's time to sleep. And now I get excited to go to bed. But like you said,
Mm.
earlier, it was like, I'll sleep when I'm dead, like all those cliches. And I mean, fuck, I love sleeping now. It's the
I
best.
can
And
even last a quarter of a show with my wife. Like if we go to bed, it's like, man, she just like leaves me behind on series because I literally just have such an easy time falling asleep now. You know,
yeah,
as a kid and most of my adult life, man, it took me 2 to 3 hours to turn my brain off. And it's like now, dude, there's so much things like that hamster wheel. It's got nothing to dwell on anymore. I
I
really love
know.
that analogy. Like, but it's so true. I fall asleep easier. I sleep more, and I actually feel like I'm getting rest.
Well, for sure. And the the like the lifestyle of living against your conscience 24 hours a day is like pure hell. And when you can go to bed without anything negative on your conscience and go to bed knowing you haven't harmed anyone that day, or you don't have to remember some lie you told so you can keep it up tomorrow. It's like, what a gift, right? Like, yeah, it's it's for yeah. Once I started sleeping well, I was like, fuck, I'm never going back.
Yeah, it sealed the deal on it. Like I had three using dreams in 15 months, and on every single one, I never got to actually use. I just knew I had used. Then I had like the bag of drugs. And then it was immediately like, how am I going to have to lie to my family about this? Like it was, I literally got the entire shitty part of addiction in a nutshell, like right there, like where it was like I was instantly back to having to lie. So when you're
Yeah.
saying, not having anything to lie about, like when I woke up and realized that that dream inside the dream was a dream, and or hoped it really was a dream, I was like, wow, that's how much the lying was affecting me.
Mhm. Yeah, because like within your because I've had the same thing, and within the dream it's like you can feel this insane amount of shame and guilt, and
Oh,
it feels so real, and then and then you wake up, and for me that's just like uh you know God or whatever, higher power, that's just like throwing those at me every now and then, just reminding me like, hey, if you relapse, if you go back to that, you're gonna feel like shit. And you're gonna have to lie, and you're gonna go right back down to where you were. And so those dreams, I at first they were like really scary, and it was kind of like, fuck, I don't want to get those dreams. But now when I do, and I wake up, I'm just like, thanks God, thanks for that little reminder.
yeah, because to go from clear conscience to feeling so horrible so quickly, it really is the contrast. Like it's not like a gradual buildup of shame. It's just like no shame, shameful as
Instant
hell.
boom. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, and for me, the last one I had. So I'm dreaming that that happened. I woke up, and that was still in a dream. Then it happened again in that dream. So when I woke up in the morning, I was like, well, I don't believe this is real. I don't believe this is real. Like something shitty's about to happen again. Like I thought I was like in a Groundhog Day of perpetual shit machine.
Have you seen the movie Inception?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were like the addict version of Leonardo DiCaprio, just kept going through these different dream states, and yeah.
Oh, it was like it took me a while to actually believe that I was in a real place. I'm like pinching and with it. I was like, oh, I pinched myself in the other one too. I'm like, the pinching didn't work.
But
So,
man, when you realize it was just a dream, and you're like the feeling of like, oh my God, that it's like, thank God. It's like the biggest relief ever.
yeah, I was real happy to know
Yeah.
that that wasn't. And one of the biggest things for me was like, why did I just throw all that awesomeness away?
Yeah.
Like I literally even inside my dream was like, why did I just do that?
Well,
Like I really couldn't even understand what made me relapse. Like
yeah. Well, what you said there, it's like, why did I throw it all away? And, you know, when I was in active addiction, I think I was always like, I'd compare myself to others, and it was like, well, at least I haven't lost this, or I haven't lost that. I'm still doing well in this department, and then you start to lose things, but truth be told, it's not. We don't lose things, Milan. We just give it away. you
yeah,
know, like it's not like I lost. this relationship, it was just like, here, I'm just gonna give it away. Like that's how that's what our thinking does to us. It's like you could have the most amazing riches in the world and we don't even lose it. We give it away, which is just that's
Well,
the
that's part
disease.
of the insanity, you
Mhm.
know? Absolutely. Yeah, but what I've gotten back through the program, okay, so I'm going to go into this question. What was your happiness level in addiction, and how did entering the program change that for you?
Well, I think there's like it was like different forms of happiness that so when I was in active addiction, I wasn't really I wasn't happy at all. I mean, when I was very young, when I was in my
Hmm.
teens and in my 20s, and there would be events and things where you go out with friends and you party, and I'm not going to pretend that I didn't have good times. Like I had
Mm.
some great fucking times. But eventually, once I got into you know drinking every day, and I wasn't happy, and
And so,
I
how
knew
many
what
years was that the not happy stage of that?
honestly, like probably from like 26 to 36. I got clean and sober when I was 36.
Hmm.
I'm 41 now. Um, from the age of like 12 or 13 to 26, it was for the most part to have fun. Um, but then it just became like this uncontrollable daily thing because I just I was constantly living in fear about everything, like just responsibilities in life, and you know, um, it that was my solution to all that was just to drink, and my happiness was absolutely like zero if you want to go level wise.
Mm.
And then once I got clean and sober, like the start of treatment, it was like the first couple weeks. I mean, my happiness level wasn't much higher,
Yeah,
but
you were shaking it rough.
yeah, but like it started to I started to see I think the beauty in the small things, and then I started to see like you know why and for what I should be grateful for, and my happiness now is like it's it's higher than it's more than 100%. It's 100, it's like 119.5%. That's what
I would say
what I
point
would give
six
it.
seven two five.
Yeah, yeah,
So, like, I mean, there was a point in my life where I had a speed addiction, which I managed to actually quit that one on my own, but it just moved into other substances. But
yeah,
from that took a long time for my endorphins for happiness to come back. There was almost a year where I was even doubting that I was going to experience like a true happiness again. And so that was why I asked that question, just because sometimes I think for somebody who's, new coming in and they're just like, I'm just not happy yet, like the post acute withdrawal symptoms and that,
yeah,
they can last up to 2 years. And I think, they say don't give up before the miracle happens, but that can be on a lot of fronts, like
yeah,
the miracle of the program happening, but also, your body healing, the fun coming back, maybe your health returning from other aspects of it.
yeah. No, for sure. There was always ups and downs. Thankfully, in treatment, I learned about pause post acute withdrawal syndrome.
Mm.
Because I think if I was just out there on my own, not knowing that, I'd go insane, or more insane than I already was. Because yeah, the mood swings and the weird like body, whether it's profuse sweating every now and then, or just like these weird thoughts, and I mean the list goes on and on. I even had a. Did you ever get brain zaps?
In what way? Like, I mean,
Well, it's like, you know, when you like touch a doorknob or something and you get that little shock.
Yeah.
I was getting those in my brain for like the first probably 2.5, 3 years
I get that in my neck sometimes, like a bzz.
yeah, yeah. So it was like a little jolt every now and then. I mean, but you know, I don't get them anymore. But like, yeah, that was like, you know, the physical toll, I guess, little things like that. And uh yeah.
And I
What was the
mean,
question again?
oh, just how was your happiness level in addiction, and
Right.
how did entering the program change that?
Yeah, yeah. No,
I think
it's
you got
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay, another question that you got.
Yeah. What activity or like passion, like have you started doing again or are planning on starting again or wanting to, or maybe it's something new that you want to try, like, you know, what do you want to do now? You know, maybe that you lost in your active addiction. Like, you know, you maybe you did
Mm.
this kind of activity, but during your active addiction, you just lost all passion for it because, you know, because of what we go through. And you know, do you want to, or have you been doing that since you got clean and sober?
So I would say the first thing that comes to my mind right off the bat is exercise.
Yeah,
Like, I was smoking a lot of cigarettes near the end of my addiction. And, you know, I smoked since I was an embryo. My mom smoked when she was pregnant. She smoked in the house when I was growing up. By the time she quit, I started.
yeah.
And, you know, it was a good 52-year run, which 9.5 months clean and free of cigarettes right now.
So
Boom.
congratulations.
And, but so I'm really trying to rebuild my health now. Like, I do a couple, 2 to 3 2K walks with my mom really fast each day now. And, I've been trying to do like some yogas and stuff like that. And like, I just, and a big part of that is because I want to sing. You
Yeah,
know, like, I never had a fighting chance with cocaine throat and cigarettes. Like, and you know, like, I've gained almost an octave since April, and
yeah,
you know, so it's like making myself strong enough and clean enough to do the things that actually matter to me, like music, you know.
yeah.
And then, you know, now starting this podcast, I've really discovered that I like to be a question comer upper with her. You know, like, I want to have a shirt that says Chief Question Comer Upper with her.
Well, question McGee, they call you.
Question McGee, the old wheelbarrow fucking scissor butt McGee.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you know, because I feel that there's something about this kind of dialogue that I think is helpful for someone who's new. I think it's helpful for also someone who's in the program who's just looking to think about it a little bit more, you know?
well, like I listen and watch recovery podcasts all the time, whether it's on Spotify or YouTube or whatever. You know, podcasts, also just like, you know, speaker tapes, like, you know, people telling their story. Um, there's just there's so many there's I mean there's millions of them out there, and just, some of them are just so good, you know.
Hmm.
I know that's one thing we started doing at options on like Fridays is we'll have like a, you know, we'll show people a speaker tape or something just so they can get, you know, a different perspective from someone else. And you know, it's yeah. And you're good at this. This is like you're, I see you, you know, you're a very you're a people person. I mean, obviously it's you have to for like what your job, your main job is and stuff. And yeah, this looks good on you. We'll podcast Mahoney, they call you.
That's right, they sure do. And when they say it, I go, I love doing it. I do it all day. But it's
Like you never thought you'd be doing this, right? Like,
Never. Like, yeah, not in a million years, you know? And part of it, okay, the motivation inside this podcast for me is that I want to show people happy people in recovery. You know, it's why
yeah,
the name is what it is, recovery, freedom rising, right? Like
yeah,
freedom rising inside you because of your recovery. And, you know, like, because two things kept me out way longer than I needed to be there. First of all, I didn't know the definition of what an addict was. Like we were
yeah,
talking earlier about, like I wasn't like seeing myself on the street, or I wasn't pushing a cart, I wasn't collecting cans, I wasn't, you know, having a broken hula hoop prostituting myself out on a corner, you know, like,
yeah,
you know, because but the thing was, is that, you know, that kept me from actually admitting I was an addict because I didn't understand the disease of addiction. And I didn't understand that you could still have a lot of shit in your life and be an addict.
yeah,
And then number two, I'm from Ontario, man. I did not know a sober person until my late 30s. Like like either you drank or you drank and did drugs. But there
yeah,
was nobody like there was no the designated driver was the guy who had like a 12 pack instead of a 2-4. Like it was just like I had like so given that I didn't even understand that you could actually just have a happy amazing life straight. I had never seen a shining example of it. So, you know, like when I ask people to come on, you know, ask people because I see that recovery fire having changed their life. You know, like you are someone who absolutely changed my life in options and so much for the better because I was asking the same question when I got in there. Like, I'm a musician, man. I guess that's all over now. And
yeah,
first thing you're like, oh yeah, I got a gig coming up on Friday or something. And I was like, huh? Like, oh, it was an upcoming Halloween gig. That's what it was because I came there on the 13th. But either way, like I just I want to show people that there's more than louder milk and sad fucking circles of rooms like part of the problem is right now that the only advertisement that happens for a 12-step program, and I understand the traditions, but the only advertisement that happens is misnomers and like on TV shows that mock it,
yeah,
you know, and they're not showing any fun in recovery, which was why when you chose that topic today, I was like, fuck yeah, man. Let's go on there and let's make them laugh and show that, you know, like this is us. Here we are.
yeah. No, I mean, I just, and the the things that we do, like, as far as working the 12 step and giving back to people, and that is fun as well. Like, it's, when I was in active addiction, like helping someone else with whatever, that seemed like a lot of fucking work. I don't want to hear your bullshit. I don't want to, but now it's like, I'm meeting someone tomorrow for coffee that reached out, like, and I'm really looking forward to it. Like, that's not, um, that's not throwing a wrench in my day. Like, doing this podcast right now is not, it's not work. This is fun, man. Like you said, we get to, like, it, and like, we get to do this, right? It's not like we have to do this. Like, like, I
I was
get to
looking
help people.
forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's I get to help someone today. It's not like this chore. It's like, I'm grateful that I have the opportunity.
I'm not being paid for this. I'm doing this because it is what I want to do with some of my time in my life.
Wait, you're gonna pay me though, right?
Yeah, in guitar picks. Oh, here, you can borrow my 5. You're like, damn, I thought I'd get an on-air commitment to cash.
Yeah. You're like, here, I'll send you a Grapevine magazine.
But bring
Here
it
you
back to
go.
the next meeting.
You'll sign it to be like, here you go. Signed Milan Grapevine magazine.
Signed Anonymous.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I think that you need to answer that question you just asked me.
What was it?
It was, oh, you've got the paper.
Um, oh, the um, what activity
Yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, music obviously became
Mm,
more. What I want to say about music is this. When I first got into music, when I first, touched my life and like, blew everything up, um, I was not using. I
mhm.
was, but my dad was playing, his rock and roll records, and I was 3, 4 years old, and there's old VHS home videos of me like dancing away. I was not using drugs. I did not need those substances to enjoy music.
Yeah.
And as I got older, and I started branching out in my own stuff, and I started playing guitar, and I was not using drugs. I was not drinking. And then eventually, I started doing that, and we I went on my you know 18 or no 22 year long, I think it was like 22-year long journey essentially. But anyway, after I got clean sober, I started listening to music again, and I put on a lot of the stuff that inspired me in the first place, like from when I was a kid, and hearing it with this new clear mind. I felt like a kid again, like I was hearing it for the first time. And it was like just so beautiful because, I never needed substances to get that feeling in the first place. And now I'm getting that again. It's like rediscovering my passion all over again. It was just like, you know, and
I
even,
agree.
and even like the thought of like, oh, maybe I won't be able to play in a band anymore, playing, bars and whatever. But I was like, I I'm just more into listening again now anyway. So if that doesn't happen, big deal. Like, I'll do some recording, but man, like getting into that again and just like feeling those goosebumps again, from when I was a kid. I mean, that was huge. So another thing as far as, a passion would be my job, right? Like I never thought I'd be an addictions counselor. Like it's just I mean,
I think you were born to be, man. I do. I listen, like, I talk to the people who've gone after me from options, and they're quoting you all the time, man. Like, which is actually really cool. And I'm like, he actually says this more often. No.
yeah, like
Who can
today,
outquote Adam but Adam?
yeah, like today, some of the clients were giving me a hard time about certain things that they were throwing my own jokes back at me, and it was it was pretty funny. I'm like, you guys, you hate the things I say because you think they're stupid, but you're using them against me, like
Yeah.
like I'm getting in your mind, you know.
Just wait till tomorrow. You'll agree with me.
Yeah,
And that the phrase, like I remember you were like, who would have thought I could win the war by laying down my weapons?
yeah,
And that has been something that has always stuck with me in my recovery. And, like I came to the realization the other day, it's kind of like addicts in treatment are a lot like your children. Be careful what you say because they're going to believe you.
yeah, yeah.
So hopefully you're saying some words of encouragement and hopefully,
Oh yeah,
well, I just mean, but I realized how impressionable people are at that point, you know? It's a very
yeah, and
vulnerable state.
yeah, and as a counselor, you know, obviously, and everyone's different, right? Like, if I'm helping one person that is more sensitive, then I've got to tone down the language, or I've got to, you know, be more patient, and like, and then other people, it's just like, nope, they need a, you know, straight up to the point, like, so but that's great because there's so many different personalities that you see in AA and NA and treatment and whatever. And uh, you know, it's so cool that because we put aside all our, outside political, uh, you know, all those issues, we get along, and it's like, you know, people that you never thought you would hang out with. You're like, it's like it's not uncommon to see, like, you'll see go to a meeting and you see like some guy who's wearing like his hunting clothes, and he just got out of the bush and he shot a moose, hanging out with, like, the guy who's the vegan who like, like, it's just polar opposites, but they're focusing on what they have in common, which is a beautiful thing because imagine the world actually lived by those principles, like, let's look at what we have in common as opposed to what our differences are. And there's always way more commonalities, like, these
Love and
stupid wars.
tolerance is our code.
Exactly. Like, look at all these stupid wars going on. It's just like, what are they like? Anyway, it's, yeah,
Yeah.
AA and NA. And I mean, they were really, like, AA was so ahead of its time when it comes to, like, inclusion, and, like, the only requirement was a desire to stop drinking. And it didn't matter what your sexual orientation was, what ethnicity you were, what religion you were. It was like, everyone come on in here. We got the same goal. Let's work together. And I mean, that's in the 1930s, like
Hmm.
that. I mean, there's
But wasn't
still,
wasn't there a period where like the women had to stand in the kitchen?
I don't know.
I'm, that was a bad joke there, but no. But I do believe that I do believe male orientated a little bit during the beginning, and like not out of sexism. I think that the men were just more out of control.
Yeah, probably.
Like I think the men numbers early on far outweighed the women.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, I think there's, like, different statistics out there about, like, what substances were used more by, different sexes. And, like, I know with a lot of women, I think, and this isn't like painting I'm not painting everyone with one brush, but, like, a lot of, like, you know, pills, like a lot of, prescription pills were even back then were being abused, right? And of course you mix that with alcohol and it's a whole new fucking thing. But,
Hmm.
you know, drugs, and they they all sort of, you look at the drugs now, right? Like, you
Hmm.
didn't have, fentanyl and crack in the 1930s. Like, it wasn't a thing. So
No, you had legal cocaine and
yeah,
legal meth, legal
yeah,
cocaine and legal meth. Like,
yeah,
but my comment to anybody out there that felt like I just made a sexist comment, if you read the big book of AA, there's actually a chapter called To the Wives, which obviously means that they're thinking most of the people getting helped are guys. Like,
yeah.
like I find that chapter a little bit ridiculous myself. But like I'm not rewriting any book. I would hope that that the next version says to the spouses.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like there's some old timey language in there, and there's some old timey thoughts, and um, some things that just wouldn't fly now. I know that there's a lot of controversy with, just things that are accepted now that weren't back then, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of like anything. I mean, we focus on the good
Yeah,
parts, which
I think
far
it's a
outweigh the bad parts. But
it's a
uh,
life-saving program of action designed to
yeah,
bring us into the present moment and into conscious contact so that we are living in a unity versus the duality of our addiction versus principled action.
yeah,
You
Yeah.
know, like you said, you're not worried about the lies. We're not worried about all the shit that we're not doing overall, you know?
Yeah.
And
And
it's been,
there's, oh, go ahead.
no, you first.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, there's so much literature also out there besides like the AA, you know, big book and the NA basic text. Like, like today I was, and I'm bisteptual. Like I go to NA
Yep.
and AA, I, you know, I, it's all there to help, and I need help in any way I can. Um, but like today, I was reading a book, the Living Clean book in the NA
Yep.
program,
I
and
was just looking at that too
yeah,
today.
and we had a client graduate today, and I read him something as graduation out of that book, and it's like what an amazing book, like what an amazing piece of literature, and so yeah, there's some books that are going to have this and that, but like there's so much literature out there that you can read that there's a lot more good than not. And
Absolutely.
you know, on a funny note,
Yeah.
there's a line in the AA book that I just think is fucking hilarious because it's so ridiculous. It's an old timey phrase for getting drunk, and they call it getting boiled as an owl.
Oh, I didn't. I thought. I thought. Yeah. There was another one too that kind of like sounds like sex.
Oh, okay. Well, this one is, yeah. Yeah, he was boiled as an owl. And I'm thinking to myself, like,
How many owls are getting boiled back in the
yeah, like
30s?
it's such an odd way to say he was getting loaded. But, I even Googled it to see if this was, and
Mm.
sure enough, it was, yeah, it means getting drunk. And I'm like, huh. So now when I go around telling people that they shouldn't be boiled as an owl, they look at me quite odd. And, you know, I just tell them, yeah, whatever.
Page
Anyway,
142, big book, Ben. Back
yeah.
off. I like how the sexual relations is on page 69. That's one of my favorite things in the book. Why not? I'm like, look it up. Look up the sex on page 69. So, how have the steps allowed you to remain happy and have fun in recovery? Like what freedom or joy or serenity, like, and in what way, you know?
Well, I mean, the key to the steps is like doing them, right? I mean, it's one
Mhm.
thing to sit there and to do them with your sponsor and or go through with a sponsee, but like you got to do them every day in your life. Like you
Mhm.
have to,
Yeah,
I have to walk them. Like,
practice
yeah.
the
So when I wake
principles.
up, the steps work in my life is I wake up in the morning right away. I have to know and I have to tell myself that I am powerless over alcohol and that my life is, in fucking shambles if I go back there. So step one every day, boom. And then along with that, step two and three, I have to believe that people and spiritual whatever other than just me, other than my ego, can restore me to sanity and can help me live this beautiful life. Um, so the first step in the higher power, that's there all day, and then when I wake up, that's the first thing that comes to mind because it has to. If it doesn't, then the day is not going to work out too well. And if I don't do step one perfectly every day, like there's a lot of danger there, right? They say it's a program of progress, not perfection, but you got to do step one perfect. You have to. Like if I ever think, maybe I'm not powerless, then I'm
Then you're
gonna
probably
drink every
stopping at
day.
a liquor store.
Yeah. So anyway, so those three steps, I'm working every day. And then step 10, 11, and 12, which are like the maintenance steps, right? And step 10 is I'm doing my daily moral inventory and when I was wrong, I promptly admit it and And when I'm right, I just shut the fuck up because, no one likes the guy who's, I told you so guy or whatever, right? I just, it's, be humble, right? That's what I try and do. And so step 10, yeah, just like deal with shit as it comes along. If you leave your dishes pile up for a week, it's going to be a little overwhelming thinking
And
about cleaning them
stinky.
up. Yeah, yeah, it's stinky. Um, but if I do my dishes every day as I dirty them, then yeah, it's a pretty good way to maintain like my spiritual life, right? So that's step 10. And then step 11 is I make sure that I pray and I meditate every day. And, for me, my prayers now they're like 90% gratitude. Like I used to pray, like, God, get me sober. And now I can say, God, thank you for giving me the tools to stay sober. So, my prayers have morphed into more gratitude. And, I thank God for my beautiful family and all my friends. And I ask that he keeps them safe. And I tell him that I'm gonna do whatever it takes, because I can't just like ask God to take everything from me, right? I have to like give it up. I have to like, and a relationship is not like 50-50. It's not like God puts in 50, I put in 50, it equals 100. It's like, no, the relationship is 100. Like I put in 100, I get 100% back. And that goes with my marriage, that goes with everything for me. That's what I believe anyway. So anyway, prayer and meditation and then like, meditation, it doesn't have to be this thing where at least for me, I mean, I'm only speaking for myself, but I don't have to get down in some kind of yoga pose and be quiet, like be have a silent um space where there's candles and like it's for me like meditation is kind of whatever I want to do like I for me just laying in bed and putting on music and like whether it's on in the background or it's in my my headphones, it's like I can meditate to that shit, like I just let my thoughts go. And a lot of times like at night, I mean that's I meditate and then I fall asleep and it's fucking great. It's just the perfect way to go off into the slumber of the night. And so, meditating might just be hanging out in a hot tub or something. Like, it could be anything, right? And then, step 12, I help others as best as I can. And, I try and be a better person and help the alcoholic and the addict that needs it. And so for me, steps 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, 12, I work that shit every day, which in theory, if I do that stuff every day properly, I should never have to do steps 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 again. We all know that that's not, possible because perfection is a myth, except for step one. Yeah, I do it perfectly. But, my step 4 doesn't get fucking huge because
Hmm.
I do my mini step 4, which is step 10 every day. I don't have to go through that clutter. The first time doing the steps, it was like I'm grateful that I had people guide me to do them very thoroughly,
Hmm.
and my last set of steps, it was really hard for me to find people I resented and to find like at least as many places where I had done people wrong because I'm telling you, the first set I ever did, it was out of control. And it feels good now to be able to walk through life, knowing I'm doing my best, right? So anyway, does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely, it does. And fortunate for me, you didn't complain at the length of my step 4 either. It was like the 120-page novella. Your guys are like, do 4 people. I'm like, I think I'll do 20. Because I was like, I was waiting there. I was like, there's going to be a lineup. They're all going to be standing there waiting to say sorry to me when I leave treatment. There'll be like a parade of apologies to Milan. And then it's like, oh, my part. Oh,
Yeah.
my part. Oh, oh, I guess it's all my fault. Okay, do you got another question?
Um, yeah,
Cool
yeah,
Ranch. That's the flavor of Doritos I like.
okay. I feel like the questions I wrote are like the same ones you wrote. So I think maybe you asked me this, but I'll ask you, or maybe you already answered it. I don't know. I'm kind of out of the. I forget things easily, but what would you tell someone who thinks that their life just won't be fun without drugs and alcohol?
Okay, well, I would share my story with them. That, I like, the way my sponsor describes it. I love it. He says it's like all good with hiccups, all hiccups with a little bit of good, all hiccups, and then the desperation, right? Well, I swear the first 20 years of my addiction, it was all good. Like, if there was any complaints, I wasn't listening to them and I didn't feel like there was a problem. But, it was the last 17 years that got pretty hiccupy with a little bit of good and then like, all hiccups, no good. And so, there was 17 years that it was like on and off white knuckling, and lasted up to 20 months. And every single one of those, I was doing it for someone else and resenting the fuck out of them for that. And, so for me, I would also tell them probably about how I had so much shame and guilt, like from my Catholic upbringing. Dude, I could work 14 hours as a carpenter and be guilty buying a Snickers bar on the way home. Like, no joke. I had so much guilt. And I would explain how the steps, first of all, help you lose that obsession in the surrender, where all that mental energy that's surrounding that, like, I need my substance. I'm using my substance. I need to use my substance more. Like you were talking about getting up in the night to do shots to keep your addiction running. Like how much of your life and mental energy surrounded that addiction and how the surrender. Like, dude, I have not had a compulsion. I have just felt in such an awe of the Jedi mind trick of the surrender itself.
Yeah,
And then just how the tools of the steps can just clear away all that shit from the past, man. You know? Like that's how it brings joy to my life. And then it's like now relationships, I'm not like running from them in anger, sadness, or anxiety. I'm working on them. I'm doing counseling with my wife to try and rebuild something that I spent a long time damaging, you know?
yeah,
And like just because I went to treatment doesn't mean she did a set of steps. And so we need to work through stuff together. And
yeah,
however she wants to do that, like I owe her the living amends of putting in my work on that relationship as much as on myself.
yeah.
For the shit our wives put up with, and I know that you're supposed to put up with some mean ass shit, like the stories of Pepperoni Wizard. Like, dude, I think you, I think you had a few nights you forget that she'll never forget.
Yeah. I have a few years, I think that I
Mm.
forget that, she and other people won't forget. When you wake up in a different province, like, you know, it's like, oh fuck, I'm in Calgary. Like, how am I going to get back to Kelowna?
Oh shit! And you're like in a pink tutu on a
Yeah,
bus.
yeah. Uh, yeah, I think, like you said, I mean, one of the big things is the promises at the end of the meeting, the 9 step promises. I think that
Mm,
if someone hears that and then there's people there that can swear that those things have happened in their lives,
mm,
they're providing evidence, because all that shit in the promises, man, it is. it has just come true for me, and then some. And
Yeah.
some of it came quickly, some of it came slowly, but they're coming true. But it's because I'm working for them. Like, I mean, I used to just, you just kind of hoped things would get done. And now it's like I actually need to work for things that I want. But I don't mind the work. I like the work, and the 12 steps kind of like translate to everything in life, because, you know, I mean, look at it. Step one, it mentions drugs and alcohol. The rest of the steps, 2 to 12, are just a blueprint for living, you know.
Yeah.
Like I went to rehab to quit drinking and doing drugs.
Mm.
I didn't go there to like figure out how to be a better person. I just thought that would come with just the quitting, right? And on the first day, I'm like, okay, well now I'm clean and sober. What do I do for the rest of my time here? And it gives you this instruction booklet, this manual to live. And if you follow the steps, your life will be so much more fun and meaningful, and everything will just like mean more, and you'll appreciate things more, and the gratitude, and so
I went into
yeah,
treatment thinking I wanted to find a way to be able to go to a party and have fun straight.
yeah,
Like that's how little I knew about it. And now for me it's like I just don't need the party. Like I'm
yeah,
just having fun straight. And the party just doesn't even fit into the equation of all the things that I want to do and accomplish in that in my life.
yeah. Like
Like,
what's the definition of a party? Like people gathering
I
and
love you, man. That's what it looks like to me now when I go. Like, honestly, I'm just like, whoa, get back, you
but
smell.
but now, like in sobriety, like for me, like this is a fucking party. Just what we're doing right now.
Dude, like getting to spend a night with you is amazing to me. Like, this is literally fun in recovery. Getting
Yeah.
to talk about the most fascinating thing I'm finding in my whole life, which is what we're working on here,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How has your recovery brought fun into your family life?
Well, you'll have to ask them. You'll have to get them on the podcast. No.
Go wake them
Um,
up. Go wake them up. No, no, your wife will love it. I swear. She told me, she said, just get him to wake them up.
um,
Hey,
well,
Eunice. No.
I mean, my kids, they're twins, boy and a girl, and they're 4 years old. And, thank God they've never seen me in active addiction, right? I think, I'm able to be present. I'm present there for them, and I can just do the things that I know I wouldn't be able to do if I was loaded. I think my family, I think, like I said, the being present is a huge thing because, I'd go to a family gathering, but I wasn't there. My mind was wandering somewhere else because all I was thinking about was, picking up, right? Getting drugs, getting alcohol, getting the fuck out of there. I just didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be in a place where I couldn't get annihilated. And now I go and I'm having fun. And so I can have fun with my nieces and nephews. Like, when my sisters, I got three sisters and they have three beautiful families. And when they were having kids, like I was pretty absent. Um, for me, it was just thinking about myself. And it's like, hey, Adam, you want to come over and meet your nephew? And it's
Your
just like,
5 year old nephew.
yeah, yeah. And we all live in the same fucking city, like, which is even worse, right? Like it's not like I couldn't keep in touch because they lived in Quebec or something. Um, but like, so I'm more present. Like, I mean, my dad and I, for example, like, we our conversations on the phone, we would chat with each other maybe once every 2 months. And once again, we live in the same city. But our phone calls would be like, "Hey, Dad. Hey, Adam. How you doing? Good. You? Not bad. What's new? Oh, not much. How about you? Yeah, not much. Huh. All right. Well, yeah, we should, I don't know, do a coffee or something sometime. Yep. Sounds good. Okay. Bye." That's the relationship. Like, and now we go for coffee once a week, and, we talk about deep shit and family stuff, and like, he tells me experiences from his life, and he helps me with figuring out where I want to go with things, and we talk about, like, sports and just like we just it's a good conversation, right? And so, I think for him, it's pretty cool because, like, he's got a son in his life, and I know with him, he never had his father in his life, right? So the fact that he gets to hang out with his son, um,
And was it you that pushed him away in your addiction, or did he push you away?
my parents both were there for me,
Mm.
but I didn't want to. I didn't really like. I just never showed up. I never.
Yeah,
I didn't want them to see how
yeah, I get it.
fucked up I was, So we didn't really push each other away. I think if I would have gone to them for help, then
Mm,
they would have been there for me. And ultimately, they did help me because I never would have gone to treatment. I never would have. The only
mm,
reason I went was because my family got together and they surprised me and they said, "Man, we love you and you're going to die and we want you to go." And I was like, "Yeah, it's time." And the weight came off my shoulders and it was like,
mm,
"This is fucking great. I can go do this now. I don't have to pretend anymore. I don't have to lie. You
mm,
know, I can just I can just go. I can learn how to be me, and and I mean, I didn't know what I was in store for. You mean
mm.
you don't know when you're walking into treatment. You can relate to that, but
I was scared shitless. I was like inmate Starcic reporting, and like Ashley's like, "You're not an inmate. You're a client." I'm like, "So which cell am I in?" I
you're
was
like,
scared senseless,
yeah,
man.
it's like
But go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's like it's not what cell you're in. It's like what spiritual principle is on the door of your private room with your own ensuite,
I'm
right? Like,
locked in hope.
yeah,
I'm
it's
locked in hope.
it doesn't say hope on the jail cell.
Yeah, no, no, it doesn't. But it was scary. I'm really glad that Gabriel and Dave were there the second I walked in. Actually, they
Yeah,
helped lighten the environment. For me too. When I woke up after dying that night in the hospital in Vancouver, in my friend's daughter's apartment on her couch, the weight was lifted, dude. Like I knew it was over.
yeah.
And it was like, even before the program, it was like I had that forced surrender of like there was nothing left, man.
Well, and that's, part of I think the the beauty of where we were at when we got clean and sober is we'd already experienced everything there was to experience. You
Mm.
know, it's not like I'm leaving anything on the table of
Not
like
anything
shit.
good.
Well, yeah, like I'm not, but it's not like I had this bucket list of things that I wasn't, like, if anything, I've got these new bucket lists, and they don't involve any of that stuff, and um, you know, and so we had that on our side, like we'd done it all, been there, and like you'd been just like me, you've been beaten into a state of reasonableness, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think rock bottom is, because people think of rock bottoms as like losing everything in your life, but I think rock bottom is when you decide to change, you know,
Mm.
like I know
Yeah,
for
it's
me,
it's the point that you start going up, you know,
and
whenever
exactly,
your
and
bottom.
yeah, and it's like I think that when I hit my rock bottom also came up to meet me, and there was a decision made there to climb out of that hole, and which is pretty funny because we have a 12-step program, so we're literally going upstairs, climbing out of a fucking hole, you know.
Oh, I think it was named that for a reason.
Yeah, and
I
when we
think
get to when we get to the top and we're putting step 12 into our daily lives and practicing it, it's like, we got ourselves out of the hole. Now we get to help get other people out of that hole, right?
that's right. Go back down them stairs and pull someone else up.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
And do you got any more questions on your sheet?
Um, I think you've kind of answered them. Uh, hmm, let me see if I can just come up with one on the spot.
Okay. Do 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 do.
Okay. What is something that has surprised you the most that you did not expect when you first got into treatment and you got into recovery, or something that you didn't think would happen afterwards, but what has surprised you the most? If you can think of something or a couple things.
Okay. The very first surprise was losing my entire obsession and the surrender working. Like that, man, every single time I white knuckled it at him, my brain would be on that hamster wheel of like, I got to get more. Now that I got more, I got to use it. While I'm using it, I got to think about using it the next time. I got to make sure there's more for later. Got to have some for the morning. I got to be ready for the like. There was like a 30 to 50% of my brain cycling on habit maintenance, and
Yeah.
for that to be gone, like gone, gone, gone. I look. I can't even believe that. Then the next part of it probably would be losing my guilt. Dude, like after I did my step 5 with you, I had a day and a half where I was just in tears from the feeling of like I'd never had a guilt-free day in my whole life. Like that right there in itself was just insane. And then yeah, and then I would just say that I if you had said to me 18 months ago, hey man, you're gonna be straight. You're gonna love it so much. You're gonna have 5 sponsees and be like a recovery warrior, have recovery fever. You'll be having a podcast on recovery. I would have been like, go on, tell me some more,
Yeah.
give me some more. But like I, I did not think that. I didn't think that 6 or 7 were somewhere that I would want to hang out. I used to be a 0, like passed out, or shooting 11, shooting for 14.
Yeah.
Like I had no clue about a nice, joyous 6, 7 serenity, man. I don't think I lived there one day in my life. And I would say overall that that's probably the biggest surprise is that that's where I want to be now.
You're in the middle.
Yeah.
You don't let the highs get you too high. You don't let the lows get you too low. And, when you can stay in that place where, you're just like everything is comfortable, and you're grateful for what you have and grateful for what you don't have.
Hmm.
Like it's like kind of the less I have in life as far as like, material possessions and all that kind of shit. It's like just the more calm it is, right? Like, I think we were addicted to chaos as well in some
Yeah.
form. Like, there's always drama, and it's always like, I need this, I gotta buy that, I gotta, and it was all bullshit, right? Um, so I think that, yeah, like just a nice 6 or 7, like that's
It's like a pot-bellied snake. Like if 11 is the snake head and zero's the tail, that's 6 or 7. That snake ate like a deer because that pond of serenity or joy is like a little fat middle of the snake. Yeah.
all right. Well, yeah, I'm going to use that in my next counseling session.
There you go. Because it is. It's just like, it's kind of like there's so much more depth. Like, although the feeling isn't as extreme as like that, almost manic highness, right? It's deeper. Like
Yeah,
when I feel that, and just like, you know, that sunset, that walking my dog, that, going upstairs and Michelle's made me pizza and gives me a hug or something, right? Like it just feels so much deeper
yeah,
than the shallowness of that extreme.
yeah. Like definitely, like you just mentioned about Michelle. Like I know for Brittany, my wife, I just, I'm obviously more present with her, but there's just a feeling like I got my best friend back. Or, I guess for you and I, the great thing about the disease of addiction is if we treat it, we can actually become better versions of who we were, Like if you have cancer or something, you're just trying to get back to like a state of where you were at, right? And we get to become better versions and you know, I mean, I know there's some of that that's close to your heart right now. And it's we get to be there, right?
Mm.
It's not about us.
And like I would I would say that I regret hurting people in my addiction, but I am grateful that it brought me here to have whatever remaining life I have left inside this program. Like if I could be like if I was like a watcher of my life and there was a fork in the road that showed like no recovery Milan, you know, and then me as I am with the turning point into recovery, I feel so grateful to have had that opportunity to change my life in that way.
Yeah.
Like a friend of mine just came to me today and he's actually going to start a set of CODA steps. Like just he doesn't have substance addiction, but it's like him and I were having a conversation about the steps and he's going through a divorce and he's just like, man, I need to do a set of these steps. I need to clear some of this shit out of my life. And I said, well, I know other people that aren't, having substance addiction that do CODA, and man, they should do a set of steps in grade 11 and 12 in high school.
No shit.
Like just like, hey, like, why don't we have some adults that can't blame their parents for anything?
Or, you know, even if they do blame them for a few things, they can get the fuck over it.
There you go. Exactly.
because because I think in today's age, there's almost it's almost like trendy in a way to take your trauma and make it your identity, Like
Isn't that
people,
called a pity party?
yeah. And it's like, I mean, I guess life has always been that way, but like it just seems now more than ever, like it's like, you know, people they'll use their victimhood as I don't know, like you're not a victim, you're a survivor. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I want my identity to be that. I don't want to be a victim my whole life. I
Mm-hmm.
want to be I was a victim, but now I'm a survivor. And my trauma was not my fault, but my recovery is my responsibility, you know.
Yes.
And if I'm just gonna lay in that pity party pit, like no one's gonna want to hang out with me. Like I'm not gonna be a fun guy to, like what's like I want my identity, to be like like a mom and addictions counselor, and if you should be you want to be a fireman or a doctor or you don't want to be a victim of whatever someone did to you. It's just like
I just now that, after having gotten these tools and done a step 4 and saw the pity party was one of my things, I tell all of my friends, I'm like, if you throw a pity party, I ain't coming. And if I send an invite, don't show up because I won't be there either.
Yeah.
Like I don't want them. And it's hard for me, like when I hear it come out of my mouth, I'm like, whoa, whoa, sorry, pity party alert, pulling it back in, blah, like tuck that back in there because I don't want it.
Well,
Like it's a habit that's hard to break,
but that's the beautiful thing with working 12-step program is, you're able to be aware of like when that pity party starts coming out, and
mm,
it's like you said, like you can just be like, stuck it back in.
yeah,
Like I'm pretty aware of my character defects. I mean, no one's perfect, so of course they come out now and again, and but like to have the gift of like awareness, I think, because I think when you and I were loaded, we didn't know what kind of behaviors we were even exhibiting. Like we didn't even understand what we were doing and how we were feeling. And now it's like I can actually get up in the morning and I can pretty much tell, you know, what's bothering me and what I can do, like to flip that around so that,
mm-hmm.
my day is good and so that I can help people around me and that I don't bring everyone down into my miserable mood, right? Um, you
It's
know, it,
amazing to be able to actually dissect it now, eh?
yeah,
For me, I say like within a couple hours,
yeah,
like, but it's not usually any longer than that now. That I haven't identified it, and I'm at least, withdrawing and trying to fix whatever shit I see that is my part, right? So, what would your piece of advice be to someone struggling to have fun in recovery? Like if they were like, I got no fun recovery, other than slapping them.
yeah, punch them right in their soul. I think a
It's,
lot because I think for me, and I think I had this feeling going in, and I think for a lot of people, it's just like their ego. Like it's kind of like, oh, if I'm not going to drink and be able to go get smashed at a party, like I'm going to be a nerd, or like I don't know, man. Some of the coolest people I've ever met are in recovery, and
mm,
it's not like you join some weird cult and you have to like, you're bound to these like rules and stuff. Like like you can come and go, and do we get brainwashed? Well, our brains are filthy; they need to be washed, you know. But it's just like just throw down your ego and let yourself laugh. I think that when we're in active addiction, we're very we don't trust people. We're very guarded. So, someone says something funny or even kind to us, and our instant reaction is like, well, what's your motive? Why are you being nice to me? And I think that going into AA or NA, it's like throw your ego out the door and go, wow, these people are like legit. They're having fun. And, you know, maybe, maybe I can get on board with that, or at least try. Um, I know for me, it was so much of my problem in life was ego. Like, I'm one of those guys that would have told you I was the best at being humble, right? Like,
well, you were
and
the best at throwing pepperoni to an audience. You were the best. I've never seen that.
shout out to Charlie Hanson, the Brats, live in Calgary at the Palace Theater. Pepperoni, throwing it to the crowd out of my dirty sweatpants. Um, those are my stage sweatpants, and like they hadn't been washed in months. So, um, anyway, um, but yeah, like you know, just go in there with an open mind, go in there with willingness and just to just go in there with kindness and respect and be like, oh, you know what? Like these people are having fun and maybe I shouldn't be you know, too cool to hang out with them. Or I don't know, does any of that make sense? Like,
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think that sometimes in our active addiction, because our egos are so big and we put on this tough exterior, right? We're badass, we're this and that, and we don't let anyone in. And you know, when someone comes up to you at a meeting and you're new, or when you and I can go up to someone in a meeting and they're new, and you can, whether it's shaking their hand or giving them a hug and telling them like, hey, like, welcome, like, I got the same problem as you, and
Mm,
you can, I'll be here for you. And it's a
mm,
complete stranger. Like if you you can go up to someone in a meeting and they're a complete stranger and they will help you. You can tell them what's going on in your life and they'll give you
mm,
advice. Like if you just walked into Costco and decided you were going to just walk up to a stranger and tell them your life story and how shitty you were feeling and your problems with addiction, like they would run away or slap you in the face, or but in AA and NA, like you can just walk up to someone and they will help you. Like it's crazy. And you know, you might learn something and you might feel better. You might feel better about yourself, and to go to a meeting and to just be open, willing, let your guard down, you might have some fun.
I I would add that you can tell your life story to someone at Home Depot, but it has to be in the paint department because the lineup is so long. You can get away with telling your story, and they're trapped there if they want that paint, and their wife's waiting in the car, so they gotta wait for that paint. You can tell them your story there, but I would just like to add that work a set of thorough steps. Like if you're not getting a spiritual experience and relief from your former self, I really feel that there's some hole in the step work, an incompleteness or just a lack of honesty and application in it.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I was thinking, I guess, if someone initially comes in the door, but yeah, once you've been there, you've gone to a few meetings,
That's what I
like,
mean. It's like someone in
yeah,
recovery who's like, "Hey Adam, you're having fun. I've been in this a year now and I'm not having any fun."
yeah.
I'll be like, I would ask them, probably, how are you sleeping? What are you eating? Are you exercising? Like, have you done a full set of steps? Because
And
I know that I wouldn't have had the feeling changes without the step work I did.
yeah. And for me, like I said, when I was going to those few AA meetings before I ever went to treatment, like I
Mm,
was going there and I liked it. Like I liked the people,
mm.
but I was like, I'm not doing these steps. Like I'll go to these meetings, but for me it was like I'm at Adams Anonymous. Adam is Adam's sponsor and Adam is Adam's higher power. You
And
know?
Adam chooses what he doesn't want to do, and he doesn't want to
Yeah.
do most of it.
Like, I had a full-time job of thinking I knew it all, and it didn't pay very well.
Yeah, I know. He paid in hospital visits and miscellaneous injuries.
Yeah, like we have a lot of full-time jobs when we're in active addiction. Like the using the substances itself, that's a full-time job. Lying about everything, full-time job. When my addiction says jump, I say how high. Like it's just business. Like
Mm,
it's not personal, it's business. And I will fuck you over so I can impress my addiction, And so there's another full-time job. We're working for this thing. Like, and then you might have an actual full-time job on top of it all. Like, I mean, it's completely unmanageable. I hate when people talk about being a functioning alcoholic or a functioning addict, because yeah, you might be paying your cell phone bill, but if your marriage is in shambles and you hate yourself and you want to kill yourself, how is that manageable? Like now,
mm.
today, I'll gladly miss a payment on my cell phone bill to be happy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like functioning alcoholic, like I don't believe in that. I don't. You can't
Yeah.
tell me that there's functioning alcoholics out there that fucking love everything in their life. I, wow, and maybe there are, but I haven't met any yet.
I haven't met any either. Um, I
They might
re-
tell you they are.
yeah. I'm really grateful that you came here, Adam. I've always felt like you, like we're family since
Yeah,
since options, and you're a role model to me in my early recovery, and brother to me now, just in my recovery, and people coming out and telling their story like you. Hopefully, we're helping somebody out who's just starting out there,
yeah,
and just don't quit before the miracle happens, everybody.
yeah.
You got anything you want to say before we go?
Uh, I don't know. I think, if you're new, you know, come in there, come into those doors, lay the weapons down, surrender, join the winning team. There's millions and millions of people in um, the fellowships of AA and NA and whatever else, and they got your back. Like you can go anywhere in the world, and there'll be meetings there. You can go anywhere in the world through Zoom meetings. Like I can go on a meeting in Ireland right now. Like um, so there's no better time, I think, to be an addict in a way, because there's so many resources, whether it's listening to podcasts and listening to speaker tapes and like I'll go on a long drive and it's like, man, I'm just gonna throw the Bluetooth on and listen to someone talk about recovery, right? Like, so I think that, that whole surrender and then just accepting who we are, right? Like, I don't need to know why I'm an addict. I don't, those questions, it's like, fuck it. I don't care. I just am. And, I'm a grateful one, because if I hadn't gone through all that shit, I wouldn't know how good life could be today. And, I've got a spiritual, uh, life and a higher power that, once again, I don't know what it is. I don't really care. I embrace the mystery, like we live on a giant floating rock in space. Like shit is fucking crazy, like it's a magical world,
Yeah.
right? So, I think that it's a beautiful fellowship, and we just strive to help each other and to be better people, and to, get rid of these demons of substance abuse. And what you're doing here, Milan, like, rocking this podcast and being involved in the community and everything. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm very grateful you asked me to be on here. And yeah, you're a big part of my recovery too, brother.
I love you, man. Okay, everybody. Well, tune in next time for more recovery fun. See you later, everybody. We love you. Welcome anytime. Please help us help others. If you've liked what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.